Fear narrows us, but imagination widens us. Here's 12 things I've learned about fear. Number 1. Fear is ancient. It lives in the amygdala, a part of the brain we share with every other vertebrate. It isn't sophisticated, it isn't philosophical, it doesn't require higher reasoning. Fear doesn't need intelligence. It just needs a basic orientation towards survival and the ability to be aroused by threat. Number 2. Even when fear is clearly biological, clearly evolutionary, clearly useful to us, it still isn't rational. If it were based strictly on facts, we would all walk around paralyzed by the inevitability of our own death. But we don't, and that's helpful because... Number 3, we all survive through a kind of functional blindness. We live in a fantasy of our own invulnerability. We imagine we have more control than we actually do. And if anything comes by that could puncture that fantasy, fear sets in. Number 4, fear usually begins with something real. Financial insecurity, life changes, those anxieties are not imaginary. Number 5, fear is incredibly easy to displace onto something else, something unrelated to the actual fear, usually something we already dislike. Throughout history, economic insecurity and class tension have displaced fear onto ethnic, racial, or sexual minorities who were seen as inferior or undesirable. The fear itself wasn't fabricated, but it was redirected in virulent and unconstructive ways. Number 6. Fear feeds on the idea of a disguised enemy or hidden trap. Fear says, this situation looks normal, but it's actually not. This situation feels safe, but it's really a trap. It's a psychological catch-22. The okayness of the situation becomes the proof that something is secretly wrong or that someone is secretly hiding something. Most good horror stories involve a clever adversary who lies low only to reveal his true nature when it's too late for the innocent victim to seek safety. The big bad wolf pretends to be Grandma, and Red Riding Hood instantly believes him until he pounces. We, the reader, feel wiser than Red Riding Hood. With our superior insight, we think we would be smart enough to spot the danger. But in real life, we all walk around all the time assuming our own safety. For instance, we're not constantly aware of our own death, even though death is an inevitable fact for all of us. Number 7. Fear has a close cousin, disgust. Disgust is a fear of contamination and a fear of our own animal nature. We feel disgust towards human waste, human corpses, human bodily fluids, human sexuality, anything that reminds us of our own animality. Historically, societies have projected these uncomfortable feelings onto specific racial, ethnic, or sexual groups, exaggerating the sexuality of those groups, labeling them as impure or dirty, and associating them with animality. Number 8. The biggest thing I've learned about fear is that it narrows us. Fear is a heightened attentiveness. Think of a fearful mouse with wide eyes. It's attentive, but it's an entirely self-focused attentiveness. It pulls all awareness towards the self and any immediate threats to the self. Fear by itself misses the big picture. It resists a larger view of the good. It doesn't create space for questions about who we really are and what truly matters to us, what kind of world we'd like to live in, and what matters most for human flourishing. The kinds of questions that would allow us to help each other out. Number 9. Fear and anxiety take over when we overvalue the wrong things. When first asked what we value, many of us think of money, pleasure, honor, status, but upon slower, quieter reflection, most of us admit those aren't what we truly value the most. Friendship, love, meaningful activity, community, political engagement, those are usually underrated in our first draft of well-being. And fear is always about potential damage to well-being. So if your idea of well-being is distorted, your fears will be distorted too. If you overvalue money or status, for instance, you may become over-anxious about losing those things. Our fast-paced society doesn't create the room for quiet reflection to truly consider what matters to us, and so we reach for the easiest symbols, which don't often leave us fulfilled or truly reflect who we are. When we don't know who we are, we look for external validators, hence anxiety and depression. Number 10. Fear shrinks the human imagination. Take the legal system, for instance. When defendants are of a distant socioeconomic class or different race from their jurors, it can be harder for jurors to extend their empathetic imagination outward towards the defendant. Hence why innocent people sometimes end up in prison. Hence why the conditions of many prisoners around the world are often considered so intolerable. Number 11. Fear isn't the only ancient tool we've been handed down. Imagination is ancient too. The participatory imagination is the ability to enter into someone else's experience, to empathize with other beings, to consider welfare beyond our own. And it's part of our biological inheritance. It's something we share with primates. The same human brain that can narrow into fear can expand into empathy. Remember in Inside Out 2 when anxiety hijacks Riley's imagination? Anxiety doesn't create anything new. She just replaces Riley's creative imagination with a fearful one. When Riley's anxiety dies down, one of the first things she does is make up with her old friends, realizing that she's hurt them. Her imagination turns outward. Lastly, and most importantly, number 12. Imagination is what keeps fear from running the world. Fear bends the imagination towards the worst case scenarios. What if this is a trap? What if they're dangerous? What if everything falls apart? But the same imagination can move outward instead of inward. Instead of imagining hidden enemies, we can imagine our shared vulnerability. Instead of shrinking into me and mine, we can expand to us. Fear protects the self and the body, but imagination gives us the ability to recognize the equality of all selves and all bodies. It allows us to creep into the experience of others and consider welfare for all. Both fear and imagination are ancient and biological wisdom. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the slow, quiet work of pulling our imagination outward, even when fear is trying to pull it back in. Credit. A lot of these ideas came from a book I recently read by UChicago philosophy professor Martha Nussbaum's book, The New Religious Intolerance: Overcoming the Politics of Fear in an Anxious Age. It's changed the way I think about fear and my participation in the world. I highly recommend it.